sorry, that's for a Democrat show.
No matter what the technical difficulty is, this man is a professional. He goes all the way.
What you represent to them is freedom.
Was an extremely great conservative commentator. We're tearing it up on Wednesday night. This is awesome. This will allow me to retort.
Well, this is Jersey Joe for the Reaver Common Sense Show. 8 p.m. on shrmedia.com.
This show contains language that some viewers may find offensive. Listener discretion is advised. And now on to the show.
And welcome to the Reaver of Common Sense. I am your host, Jersey Joe. Sorry, it wasn't on Friday. It seems that Verizon, Comcast, and Bright House decided to have a major outage, and I was in the middle of redoing several computers. And within that time frame of doing them, well, internet went totally out, and I had no way to finish redoing the computers. Every now and then I'll wipe the hard drives and reload Windows, so my apologies. But as everyone knows, you are listening to the Reaver of Common Sense show, hosted by me, Jersey Joe, trying to make sense out of the senseless. The Jersey Takeover is here. We have been here for a while now. It has expanded to 2 hours every Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Remember to join the live chat. Go to shrmedia.com, click on the chat room button, join the conversation. If you want to watch the broadcast, you can go to Reaver.one, click on the live stream, and you'll be taken right to a live broadcast of my show. Now, today and tomorrow, I'm going to be doing a two-parter special. And well, seriously, I hope I don't have DOJ knocking on my door anytime soon because of this. It's going to be interesting. I'm going to give a lot of information out over today and tomorrow. But I am going to start out with the answer to the whole show. Why? Why would people go along with the global warming hoax? And that's what today and tomorrow are going to be over. And we're going to get specifically talking about starting out with DOJ. DOJ has now stated that they try to, and they're looking into prosecuting global warming cultist deniers. If we deny it, they're going to try to prosecute. They're going to try to prosecute on, I have no idea what grounds, but if they say it's false information, well, the only false information I have heard is the data tampering from NOAA, the data tampering from IPCC and NASA. There's been a lot of data tampering. I want to give a shout out to a new listener, a good friend of mine's on. I know her from playing one of our many games. A good person. She is from the UK. And tell you what, though, and I've been paying attention to what's going on over there. And God, it scares me because from what I see you guys going through, we are like 5-10 years behind you guys. And I hope to God we can all get it settled. All right, but as I said, I am going to give the answer before I even start the show. The U.S. spends $22.2 billion a year. Now, this is just the USA. $22.2 billion on global warming. The global-wide figures right now are at $359 billion is spent on global warming. And that's not even including, travel for these extravagant conferences and all that. The latest conference was just in Paris, and they were estimating just on the travel alone for all the dignitaries and supposed experts, it was $100 million. And what's even better is think of all the carbon footprint that was put out for them to travel to Paris to have that scam of a meeting. Think about it. How much? Our president flew over there for it, and well, that's 2 Air Force Ones. Well, second one isn't classified as Air Force One. There's about 4 other planes of supplies and all that. Plus there's a team that goes like a month ahead of time that carries all the cars, the helicopters, all that. Just the U.S. alone, I mean, the carbon footprint and pollution that we did just sending our president over was, well, I don't think it was worth it. But $22 billion, $22.2 billion the U.S. spends. $359 billion a year globally is spent. That money could be used to straighten out each individual countries. If we were able to stop this scam, we could wipe out some poverty in our own countries. We could use it for programs in our own countries to make our countries better. But as I also said, we had the U.S. Attorney General, Loretta Lynch, said that she has discussed prosecuting climate change deniers. The U.S. Department of Justice has been considering whether people should be prosecuted for the offense of climate change denial. This matter has been discussed. We have received information about it and have referred it to the FBI to consider whether or not it meets criteria for which we could take action on. She was responding to a question from a Green activist, Senator Sheldon Whitehouse, at a Senate Judiciary hearing. I'm sorry, Sheldon Whitehouse. Last time I heard, Sheldon got kicked out of the White House. Got to watch Big Bang for that joke. So Whitehouse said, the similarities between the mischief of the tobacco industry pretending that the science of tobacco danger was unsettled, and the fossil fuel industries pretending that the science of carbon emission dangers is unsettled, has been remarked on widely, particularly by those who study the climate denial apparatus that the fossil fuel industry has erected. Well, that argument is not done. I know they try to say the argument's done, it's over with. No, it isn't. There is no scientific data. There is no consensus, contrary to Obama standing up going, 97% of the scientists agree. No, they don't. How he got to that 97% is there was a group of scientists that wrote a paper. They then were handed their paper back to them, told them to look over it, and see if they still agree with the information in their papers. And 97% of the scientists said, yeah, I agree with my paper. To give an example what that's like is go back to high school. A teacher gives you the test. You're done with the test. Now he writes the answers on the chalkboard and walks outside and says, grade your own papers and give yourself a grade. That is exactly what happened with these scientists. They were asked to look at their own paper and tell whether that information was true or false. I'm surprised that 3% of the scientists went, no, shoot, I forgot the add to 2. Yeah, I don't agree with my paper that I wrote. Of course they're going to agree with their own paperwork. Who wouldn't? Oh, I tell you. So it's looking like I keep looking over to the left because for those that don't know, new to the show, I also do live streaming now, and I'm having trouble with the dang computer. Oh, am I having trouble? The computer I originally set up for it wasn't strong enough. I thought it was, so now I'm trying to scrounge the parts together to do another one a little bit better to handle it. But I decided I picked a different background than my normal one. I put in there New York City underwater because supposedly by the experts, this past July, New York City was going to be underneath 10 feet of water. They kept making these exaggerated claims to try to prove their point that global warming is real, and every single one of their predictions has failed. Not most, not some, all of their predictions have failed. But yet they still want us to believe that global warming is real. So what they're doing is they're changing up their tactics a little bit right now. They're actually changing them up. And what they're doing is they're actually putting their predictions that are, and putting a date that's like 100 years in advance. So that way we can't sit there and go, oh, yeah, that didn't come true. We're not going to be around. It's a shell game. This is nothing more than a scam, a cult, a Ponzi scheme. This is taking money from certain people and giving it to others. It is making companies rich. For nothing, for doing nothing. Does that mean I think we should pollute and just trash the earth? No. But I'll tell you one thing. I know a lot of conservatives and I know liberals. And the conservatives seem to care more about the actual earth than these Greenpeace people. Do you remember back in 2012 it was? I'm pretty sure it was 2012. 2014, there was the big global warming parade protest in New York City, and you had all these A-list celebrities like Leonardo DiCaprio coming in. He flew in on his private jet. Yeah, that was real great for the environment. And then they had to hire people because all the protesters dropped all their garbage. Anything their food was in, cups, their signs, just dropped it right where they found it. They didn't care, just drop, I'm gone. Heck, you might want to bash on the Tea Party all you want, but when they go and do a rally or a protest, they clean up the place better than it was when they got there. Hunters care more about the forest than anybody because they understand the symbiotic relationship between the environment and the animals and humans. All global warming is nothing but a scam. Now we have a attorney general that wants to start charging people when they don't fall in line and agree. Well, I love you, Dawn, but this one's going to... We had a government at one time that was trying to do similar things to us, and we stood up and revolted against them, and amazingly, through great odds, we still beat them. I'm not saying we should stand up against the government right now, but in a way we should. We don't not do it violently, but we need to get the people that we have in office, the type of people we have in office, we've got to get them out of office. That type of thinking is dangerous. That is a closed-minded thinking. Science is an ever-changing industry. Science does not stay the same. New ideas come along to change the theories. That's why they're called theories and not facts. Global warming is not a fact. I mean, if I believed everything I was told from the time I was born in the 70s to now, holy snikes. In the 70s, it was we're having another ice age. The 80s, the ozone layer was depleting. We're all going to be fried. Then the 90s, here comes the global warming conspiracy. And it has kept traction. Why? Because really Al Gore pushed it, and he was able to make all this money, and everybody else said, shnikes, we can make all this money off of this. And that's all it is a money-making scheme. People are going to do it to make billions of dollars for them to become rich. Everything Al Gore said would happen has not happened. And then they prop these, and I use the word prop, because that's all they are. Bill Nye, the science guy, and DeGrazio. I think it's DeGrazio. They're not even real scientists. They really don't have a degree in science. Bill Nye the Science Guy is more an actor than a scientist. But he has that persona of Bill Nye the Science Guy. Yay! Oh, we could put him out there. He'll talk. He'll convince. No, he won't. He looks like an idiot doing it. He was a child TV show star. That's all. Doesn't mean I believe in his ability to predict the future. We got weathermen that can't predict what the weather's going to be tomorrow without a 50% error ratio. I mean, it's getting better with our weather detection, but global warming, you're going to tell me what the weather's going to be several years from now? It's called weather. It's ever-changing. And that is the big thing that differentiates. We understand that weather changes. Mother Earth changes. Sometimes we have a lot of storms. Sometimes we don't. But every time something happens, you have them going, global warming. Yep, car just drove by my house, global warming. You know, it gets ridiculous. Me and my father are always joking about that. We'll be working on something. It won't be going the way we need it to, and we'll just look at each other. Global warming. Global warming, climate change, they're all the same thing, have become more of a joke, more of a punchline than an actual reality. There's people that believe in it, but the majority of the people, especially here in the United States, the majority of them do not believe in the crap. And that's all it is. But under President Clinton, the Department of Justice brought and won a civil RICO action against the tobacco industry for its fraud. Under President Obama, the Department of Justice has done nothing so far about the climate denial scheme. Perhaps the kind of RICO action the White House has in mind is similar to the one proposed to President Obama a few months ago by a number of key climate scientists led by one Shakila of George Mason University. However, that campaign appears to have gone mysteriously quiet of late. Could it perhaps be that having become embroiled in the largest science scandal in U.S. history, and now being under investigation for double dipping and the potential misuse of $63 million worth of taxpayer-funded grants, Shakula feels somewhat less confidence of holding the moral high ground. We have a scientist, they are abusing the money and grants to them. They're abusing and then turning around telling, because we're not believing their myth, that we should be, and he sends in about the RICO. He sent a long letter. You know, we need to do RICO. He's been asked, do you know what the RICO law is? No. Do you know what's in it? No. But you think we should do it? Yeah. Is that really a scientist you want to believe in? He writes this paper on RICO law for the president to, start charging people under the RICO law, and he knows nothing. Zero. So he writes a paper on something he has no knowledge of? You don't think he should have looked it up? I think something is afoot. Really, and I keep going back to it, it's nothing but a scam. It's a money-making scam. And it's scary because so many people, the top levels are finding out the money they can make in our governments. I had done a show when I originally started doing Reaver of Common Sense. 2 years ago, and I haven't been able to find it. There was an IPCC head, and he resigned because he said that the IPCC got too corrupted by government. Too many officials had gotten their hands in there that it had nothing to do with what it was originally about. There was no science. It was all government policies being pushed. And he left it, and he said we need to start one over again to keep the hands of the government out of it. All right, well, it's that time for a break. It's going to be about 4 minutes, and then we will be back, and we'll keep going. This is a two-part show. As I said, there's a lot of information. Even though I gave the answer out at the beginning of the show, there is other stuff you need to know. You're listening to the Reaver of Common Sense right here on HPPundit.com, RebootingLiberty.com, and SHRmedia.com. We'll be right back.
You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
You have been listening to Reaver of Common Sense, hosted by my dad, Jersey Joe. Beware, the Jersey Takeover is here. Every Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can catch the Reaver Common Sense Show, hosted by Jersey Joe, right here on SHRmedia.com and HighPlainsDailyNews.com. Only Jersey can deliver hell like no one else, so consider this your fair warning.
In a world controlled by corrupt politicians,
You got a business. That you didn't build that.
a team of ordinary men emerge from the ashes to give voice to the voiceless and hope to the hopeless. Sackhead Sean.
Dude, I'm not saying cough was stupid, bro.
Sackhead Clint.
All good friends of ours usually show up drunk.
Also starring Sacco as the producer.
I'm a little bit drunk, 'cause I'm drinking.
They are the Sackheads Radio Show. Every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Pacific on SHRmedia.com.
Every Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, it is the Reaver After Dark, hosted by Jersey Boys, Jersey Joe, and Jersey Crash, right here on SHRmedia.com and HighPlainsDailyNews.com.
Times are dark. The people misled by corrupt politicians, lied to by establishment media, and deceived by the false messages of Islam. A nation in confusion needs a guide. It needs a man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me on Spreaker, SHR Media, High Plains Talk Radio, Live Rebooting Liberty, and YouTube for a unique brand of commentary on the unpleasant blind guide. Because truth is not always pleasant.
If you missed any of the Reaver of Common Sense or Reaver After Dark show,
I don't want to be me. I don't want to be anymore.
just go to Reaver.one. While you're there, click the like button so you can keep up with everything Reaver. Now, back to the show.
You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
This show contains language that some viewers may find offensive. Listener discretion is advised. And now on to the show.
And welcome back to the Reaver of Common Sense. I am your host, Jersey Joe. How's everybody doing? All right. Oops. That's what I thought. All right. There we go. There we go. Trying to rush to get the stream back on and clicked the wrong one and put my desktop up there. And it's kind of funny because it shows the picture of the the program that runs the green screen and all that, and it's funny because you'll just see this tiling effect of the screen of a screen of a screen of a screen of a screen, and it keeps going infinitely. So, all right, I'm trying to make the sense out of the senseless, but this one is taking the cake. United States Department of Justice General Attorney Loretta Lynch, and she's now looking at, and has passed it off to the FBI, about charging. Right now, it's just one company. It looks like Exxon Mobil, and trying to go the RICO. Almost said Valrico. Oh my God. Valrico. I live in Valrico, and it was like brain freeze. But they're going after people, or even a company, and trying to charge a RICO when they're trying to say that the global warming scam is science. It's done. It's over with. There's nothing more to talk about. When, in fact, none of this has been settled. There has been much facts given. I know they say there's all these facts that have been put out there. Everything's been disputed. All the facts and any prediction have not come to fruition. It's nothing. Done. Well, it isn't. It's very much in question. So the scientist that came up with the idea for the RICO, well, he's got some serious questions to answer himself. But what's funny is, I think it's in this article I'm going to go over, they talk about, they start asking him in one of the articles I read, what do you know about RICO? And he's basically, I don't know nothing about it. He knew nothing about the RICO, didn't understand how it worked, who could be charged, any of that, but yet he goes and writes this letter wanting people charged in a RICO case. And it's kind of funny that he goes and does that. I mean, a scientist writing a paper about something he doesn't know anything about. That kind of sums up what this global science is about. Playing around with the backgrounds. Yeah. I'm having trouble with the green screen a little bit. I'm going to have to get my wife to iron the green screen. It's got little wrinkles in it, so it kind of messes with the picture a little bit. Otherwise, I am having fun time with this green screen and the broadcast. But I went way off topic on that, as I normally have a habit of doing. But the lead climate scientist behind the Obama RICO letter has some serious questions to answer. When 20 alarmist climate scientists wrote to President Obama demanding that he use the RICO laws to crush dissenting climate skeptics, the world of honest science, it still exists, just about was rightly and properly appalled. What other science theories have they used laws in modern day to enforce? There really isn't that many. I can't think of any. Now, years, many moons ago, yes, it was used. But not so much anymore. Not so much. The hypocrisy and the dishonesty of the signer Kevin Travesty Trenberth, which was reported, was bad enough. But just wait till you hear the story tale of the letter's lead author, Sekula, whatever. It's so murky you'll wonder what on earth possessed him to stick his head above his desk. And you may well conclude that if anyone in this ugly business is worthy of investigation, it's certainly not anyone on the skeptic side of the argument. George Mason University professor Sekula is the lead author with the UN IPCC, which stands for the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, and winner of numerous awards, including the International Meteorological Organization Prize, the Rossby Medal of American Meteorological Society, and a bunch of others. He is currently the president of the Institute of Global Environment and Society and a professor of climate dynamics. For his expertise, Sekula is amply rewarded by George Mason University with a salary of over $250,000 a year. Apparently, though, that isn't a full-time job. It can't be. Because on the topics of the salary from 2012 to 2014, Sekula appears to have been paid himself and his wife $1.5 million from government climate grants for his part-time work via his non-profit Institute of Global Environment and Societies. Institute of Global Environment and Societies is an organization which gets almost all its income from U.S. taxpayers. Last year, a whopping $3.8 million via institutions including the National Science Foundation, NOAA, and NASA. The organization's declared aim is to improve understanding and prediction of the variation of the Earth's climate through scientific research on climate variability and climate predictability, and to share both of the fruit of this research and the tools necessary to carry out this research with society as a whole. It's a tough job, but clearly somebody's got to do it. And I don't have a problem with people studying this stuff. It's good. But when you start forcing these opinions and theories, that's where the issue comes in. When it starts affecting people's bills to the extent that it does, I have a problem with it. When it's putting people further in debt in an economy that's not doing the greatest, I have a problem with it. And which is why Sekula generosity rewards its president himself with a salary of $330,000 for a 28-hour week, and his wife, who works full-time, another $166,000. Perhaps this is all perfectly above board and legal, but there's a couple of details that appear rather puzzling. Wrong button. There we go. All right. The IGES, which is the Institute of Global Environmental Societies, is, according to the Maryland Department of Assessments and Taxation, where it is registered, supposed to be organized exclusively for charitable, religious, educational, and scientific purpose, hence its non-profit status. So why exactly was the letter to Obama sent from the IGES? Does its tax status not exclude it from such naked politicking? Also, is it not the case that under Virginia law, you cannot be employed elsewhere to do the same job? So perhaps he can explain how his work as professor of climate dynamics at GMU differs so markedly from his scientific research on climate variability and Climate Predictability at IGES that it entitles him to claim separate federal grant funding for the latter. If he can't, then GMU might want to ask him for its share of the $3.8 million federal grants mentioned above. The university would be entitled to a 50%. Now, it's Loretta Lynch has shot her mouth off several times. This is a woman who's supposed to be the top attorney for the United States and the attorney that's supposed to know about the Constitution. Well, you see, here's the problem. I can talk about why I don't believe in the global warming scheme. I can tell you I don't believe it, and I can tell others not to believe in it. Why? Because I have the right. All of this is going to blow up in her face, and it's really going to hurt her. Well, hopefully. I don't know underneath this administration how things go anymore. But hoist by his own petard. This is the phrase Shakespeare invented for being blown up by your own bomb. It's also the perfect description for what has happened to one of the RICO 20, the climate alarmist tenured professor who wrote for Obama demanding that he use racketeering laws to prosecute climate deniers. The RICO plan of attack was devised by the Green activist, Senator Sheldon Whitehouse. It has since been controversial, endorsed by Attorney General Loretta Lynch, who admitted earlier this week that the matter has been discussed and Department of Justice referred to the FBI, as we discussed in the first article. But if the courtroom exchange below is anything to go by, using lawfare to harass skeptics is going to backfire horribly, and for the very simple reason. All the fraudulent and dishonest behavior to do with global warming has been committed not by the skeptics, but by the climate alarmist. What's quite astonishing, not to mention squirm-inducingly embarrassing, but also deliciously enjoyable in the Schadenfreude on steroids kind of way, is just how completely unaware of their own weakness these climate alarmists are. Consider specimen A. His name is Professor Edward Maybach. He runs the Center for Climate Change Communication at George Mason University and is the guy who actually drafted the RICO 20 letter calling for the legal pursuit of climate skeptics. Unfortunately, one of the biggest mistakes they made was writing the letter on GMU-headed notepaper, rather than a private capacity. This gave the competitive Enterprise Institute the perfect excuse to bring a Freedom of Information Act case in order to obtain documents shedding light, on how taxpayer-funded professors used their public positions and resource in this campaign. The result was an extremely sticky exchange between Maybach was cross-examined by petitioner Chris Horner and Matthew Hardin, as relayed by Watts. Up with that. We're going to go over that right after the break. There's a lot of, and it's going to get into the whole what did they know, when did they know type deal. Like I said when I started, there's a lot of information to go over. That's why I have a 2-part show. All right. You're listening to the Reaver of Common Sense right here on shrmedia.com and hppundit.com and rebootingliberty.com. We will be right back.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
You have been listening to Reaver of Common Sense, hosted by my dad, Jersey Joe. Beware, the Jersey Takeover is here. Every Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can catch the Reaver of Common Sense show, hosted by Jersey Joe, right here on shrmedia.com and highplains.dailynews.com. Only Jersey can deliver hell like no one else, so consider this your fair warning.
In a world controlled by corrupt politicians,
You got a business. That you didn't build that.
a team of ordinary men emerge from the ashes to give voice to the voiceless and hope to the hopeless. Sackhead Sean,
Dude, I'm not saying cough for the stupid program.
Sackhead Clint,
All good friends of ours usually show up drunk.
also starring Sacco as the producer.
I'm a little bit drunk, I'm a little bit drunk, 'cause I'm drinking, drinking, drinking.
They are the Sackheads Radio Show. Every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Pacific on shrmedia.com.
Every Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, it is the Reaver After Dark, hosted by Jersey Boys, Jersey Joe and Jersey Crash, right here on shrmedia.com and highplains.dailynews.com.
Times are dark. The people misled by corrupt politicians, lied to by establishment media, and deceived by the false messages of Islam. A nation in confusion needs a guide. It needs a man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me on Spreaker, SHR Media, High Plains Talk Radio, Live Rebooting Liberty, and YouTube for a unique brand of commentary on the unpleasant blind guide. Because truth is not always pleasant.
If you missed any of the Reaver of Common Sense or Reaver After Dark show,
I don't want to be me. I don't want to be anymore.
just go to Reaver.one. While you're there, click the like button so you can keep up with everything Reaver. Now, back to the show.
You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
This show contains language that some viewers may find offensive. Listener discretion is advised. And now on to the show.
And welcome back to the Reaver of Common Sense. I am your host, Jersey Joe. Trying to make sense out of the senseless, and it is getting difficult, more difficult every single day. It's seriously every day. It just seems like it's getting harder and harder to do this, and it's not because trying to deny what's going on or have an opposing view. It's just so much crap underneath this administration that has been going on that it's just getting worse and worse, and it gets tiresome after a while. Constantly dealing with the idiocy of this administration. And it wouldn't be that bad, and I don't think I would bitch and moan if it was just one or two issues, but I mean, it is several dozen issues that are going on. And it gets tiresome after a while. And I know that everybody else gets tired, but we can't get tired. We got to keep fighting the fight. We can't give up, and we can't give up our ideology and what this country means to us. So, on this Freedom of Information Act case, they're able to question some of the people from the university. And the question, first one was asked, so what you're telling me is, while you're not aware of the specifics of the RICO and how the law works, you think that what ExxonMobil specifically was doing was troubling and you wanted that to stop. Correct, was the answer from Maybach. Question, so what is climate denial? I asked that. And the answer is, what's climate denial? Good question. Activities that are intentionally misrepresenting what is known to be true about climate change so as to convince people that climate change is not, in fact, a reality. So, climate denial broadly bothers you then. Mischaracterization of the facts specifically intended to undermine the public's well-being. Yes, typically that does bother me. And the question that we're going back and forth, this gentleman is actually pushing this guy into a corner, and he doesn't realize it. As soon as I started reading the questions, I knew where he was going with this. But he goes on can you give me an example of these misrepresentations by ExxonMobil or others? No, not off the top of my head. So he's making accusation that they're having activities that's intentionally misrepresenting what is known to be true to them about climate change. But when asked about an example, he doesn't have any. Well, if you're that adamant that you need to write a letter to the president, you would think one as smart, or supposedly as smart as them, would have an example to give. So you believe that someone knowingly misrepresenting a risk posed by climate change merits investigation? Answer was, yes, I do. Next question is, okay, so if someone, for example, were to knowingly hide data indicating an increase in temperatures over the years, that would merit investigation. And that's when the guy turns around, say it again, please. If someone were to hide or misrepresent or deceive the public relating to data which shows an increase in global temperatures over time, that would merit an investigation. And his answer would be, I suppose it depends on who it is. But yes, it would certainly be a deception. And as such, it would be an act that, in my view, ought to be exposed. So, little does this guy know, he's actually backing up the anti-global warming crowd. By his answer, he is backing them up. He is giving them reason why we should be questioning what's going on. The next question is, so you said hiding an increase in temperature would be a knowing deception depending on who it is. I believe that's what you said from a minute ago. Is that correct? Sure. What if you knowingly hit a decrease in 20 global temperatures? Would that be a knowing deception? Sure. Now, if people have known, they have been tampering with the numbers that they give out on the temperature, and that the temperatures have not changed. There's no increase as been so widely rambled on about. And then I have one question. I'm sorry, Thomas and Professor Maybach, I forgot. I want to follow up on one thing, Mr. Hardin. had asked you about individuals, if they knowingly deceived the American, knowingly deceived the American people about the risk of climate change is the offense, or what warrants investigation, right? And the answer was, in my view. Okay, so if Christie and Spencer, they keep the satellite temperature records, and if they were found to have hidden an increase in temperatures in the satellite record, would that warrant investigation as knowingly deceiving the American people? They as individual climate scientists, if they are fudging the data, then I would say yes, that would be investigation worthy. But I wouldn't think that would be investigation worthy of a federal government. I would think it would be an investigation worthy by their funders or by the journals that had published their work. So right there, he's now backtracking, where denial, he wants them prosecuted through the federal government. Now, when he's starting to realize that it is the supposed scientists are the ones hiding the information, then he doesn't want the federal government involved. He wants to be self-policing at that point. And now Mr. Moncure steps up for questioning. You've already made it clear that you're not an expert on RICO. Correct, Mr. Horner. But he is an expert on what he wrote. He's the world's leading expert on what he wrote, and he wrote that knowingly deceiving the American people about the risk of climate change warrants investigation. So Mr. Horner goes on more questions and says, or asks, I should say, and I'm saying it's of all the people who know, it would seem to be climate scientists as opposed to CEOs is my premise. So as opposed to going after CEOs, how about a scientist? And the answer was, it does. So he admits that it's the scientists that we should be going after. And not CEOs. And that's the whole debate over going after Exxon Mobil. Going after CEOs, corporate people, not scientists. When it suits them, yes, we need to go after them. When they start realizing scientists are deceiving, then it's time to quiet up. And then the questioning just keeps going on. If they knowingly deceive the public by hiding an increase in temperatures, does that also warrant investigation? And he agrees, yes, it does. Okay, what if they hit a decline in 6 temperatures? Does that warrant investigation? Any knowing deception warrants in science warrants an investigation. Now, here's the key. This GMU climate communication professor has been coaxed into admitting under oath that his own side should be investigated for climate fraud. It is, after all, climate alarmist scientists from NOAA who have been caught fudging data to hide a pause, not climate skeptics. He has also admitted that he drafted the RICO letter without knowing how RICO laws operate, without knowing precisely what kind of offense the deniers he wanted to punish were actually guilty of. It appears, reading elsewhere through the court transcript, that he isn't even aware of that the 97% consensus figure is much debunked fabrication. And I went over earlier how they came across that supposed 97%. And it's not 97% of the scientists, it's 97% of scientists that wrote a paper. So if you write a paper for a subject, you're being counted on. But if you write it against, they're not discussing you. You're thrown out of the subject. Like the Denmark water trials, this case is a spectacular own goal for the alarmists. It reminds us of something I've often remarked on before. The caliber of activists, scientists, academics, shyster politicians, and hacks promoting the global warming agenda are quite astonishing low grade. They are low grade morally, which you would expect. But they are also low grade in terms of competency, credibility, and intelligence. That it's quite amazing how they manage to hold down their jobs. Probably because they mostly work in the public sector, would be my guess. What really is going to do for the climate alarmists in the end is not so much their stupidity or their venality, but their arrogance and their complacency. They're so spoiled by being part of the protected, padded, taxpayer-funded establishment, so used to dismissing their opponents with appeal to authority, with bully boy tactics, that they've completely lost sight of how weak their position really is. I noticed this in a recent debate with BuzzFeed science editor Tom Chivers. It became apparent that in common with so many of the journalists who have been towing the warmest party line, he still thinks that we so-called deniers are just a bunch of science-denying kooks touting a bunch of wacko conspiracy theories. He clearly hasn't grasped, for example, the significance of the NOAA scandal and similar ones at NASA. When your guys have been caught cheating and making stuff up and getting their predictions wrong, it's not enough to go, well, the expert consensus is. Sooner or later, you're going to have to address the charges being made against you or surrender the field. As for the case, alarmists are trying to bring against Exxon. My view is that this too will backfire, given that the evidence just doesn't stack up. That said, knowing the way big corporations tend to cave to all manner of green mail, it wouldn't at all surprise me if Exxon were to try to settle such a piece of litigation out of court, rather than force the alarmists actually to provide their nonsense case. But it's never going to work with skeptic scientists. Fred Singer, Richard Lindzen, Willie Soon, John Christie, Roy Spencer, Pat Michaels, and the rest. These guys are never going to cave. First, because they've been toughened by years of harassment and vilification, and secondly, because they've got the science on their side. The fundamental problem faced by the deniers camp is very simple. The real denialism of science and hard evidence is all on the alarmist side and demonstrated so in a court of law. Time and time again, they make a prediction. Time and time again, it has failed. For those that are listening, you need to go to Reaver.one, even if it's later on today, and click on the live stream. You can watch a replay of the broadcast. And look at the picture behind me. It is a fabrication of New York City underwater. That is the prediction that was made by several scientists, several groups, that July 2015, New York City would be under 10 to 20 feet of water. Well, I got a sister-in-law that works in New York. It's not underwater. I've seen camera crews in New York. It's not underwater. If this would have came about, with New York going underwater, it'd still be on the news every day. We would have senators jumping up, pushing new legislation, and a lot of people would have egg on their face. The only ones that have egg on their face, but they won't admit it, are these global warming cultists. I know a lot of terms have been thrown at you, so I'm going over the article. I used the wording that the author for the article used. Me, I compare global warming, climate change, whatever you want to call it. They're nothing but a cult. And if you think about the way they act, they act the exact same way as a cult does. It's going to be a lot of information, I said, thrown at you. But you're listening to the Reaver of Common Sense right here on shrmedia.com, rebootingliberty.com, and hbpundit.com. We'll be right back.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Been listening to Reaver of Common Sense, hosted by my dad, Jersey Joe. Beware, the Jersey Takeover is here. Every Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can catch the Reaver of Common Sense show, hosted by Jersey Joe, right here on shrmedia.com and highplainsdailynews.com. Only Jersey can deliver hell like no one else, so consider this your fair warning.
In a world controlled by corrupt politicians,
You got a business. That you didn't build that.
a team of ordinary men emerge from the ashes to give voice to the voiceless and hope to the hopeless. Sackhead Sean.
Dude, I'm not saying cough, stupid pro.
Sackhead Clint.
All good friends of ours usually show up drunk.
Also starring Sacco as the producer.
I'm a little bit drunk, cause I'm drinking.
They are the Sackheads Radio Show. Every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Pacific on shrmedia.com.
Every Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, it is the Reaver After Dark, hosted by Jersey Boys, Jersey Joe, and Jersey Crash, right here on shrmedia.com and highplainsdailynews.com.
Times are dark. The people misled by corrupt politicians, lied to by establishment media, and deceived by the false messages of Islam. A nation in confusion needs a guide. It needs a man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me on Spreaker, SHR Media, High Plains Talk Radio, Live Rebooting Liberty, and YouTube for a unique brand of commentary on the unpleasant blind guide. Because truth is not always pleasant.
If you missed any of the Reaver of Common Sense or Reaver After Dark show.
I don't want to be me. I don't want to be anymore.
Just go to Reaver.one. While you're there, click the like button so you can keep up with everything Reaver. Now, back to the show.
listening to the SHR Media Network.
This show contains language that some viewers may find offensive. Listener discretion is advised. And now on to the show.
And welcome back to the Reaver of Common Sense. I am your host, Jersey Joe, trying to make sense out of the senseless. And it just gets harder every day. Every day it gets harder to try to make the sense out of the senseless. It seems people are losing something called common sense. The Jersey Takeovers are here. We have expanded to 2 hours every Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Remember to join the live chat. Go to shrmedia.com, click on the chat room button, join the conversation. If you want to watch a live broadcast, go to Reaver.one, click on the live stream. And you can watch as I do the show. It's scary how, because the science can't prove itself. The science can't, the science is not there to convince everybody that it's real. There's more science and reality when you go outside. Says it's not real. Maybe one of the problems that they're having is, well, they made these grand sky is falling tactics, accusations or predictions that nobody now really believes what's being said. Dang it. My water went down the wrong pipe. Even if it was real, I don't know how many people would believe it now, because there's been so many of these, the sky is falling, the sky is falling. We don't believe Chicken Little anymore. And that's the problem. But that, as I said at the beginning of the show, and I'll reiterate now, this does not mean, just because I don't believe in global warming, doesn't mean I don't believe that we should just do whatever the hell we want. No, we should still be cautious, but we shouldn't. When I talk to people about this, the best analogy that I use is what we have with the weather and what humans may have done is compared to a human stubbing his toe. Now, you don't go and cut the leg off just because you stubbed the toe. And that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to go to this extreme. Well, instead of cutting your leg off because you stubbed your toe, be careful where you walk. We should be careful how we act. That doesn't mean shutting down every coal plant in the world. There is no backup. There's no backup plan. I understand there is some stuff in the works, but nothing is as reliable right now as coal plants. One of the pictures I've seen best to really show what's going on. It shows a little mountain, picture of a little mountain, and then I wonder if I can get that still. Got so many keyboards and mouse around. Open and see if I can find that. Now that I'm looking for it, I won't find it. Isn't that? I saw it earlier. I wasn't looking for it. I came across it like 20 times. And now that I want it, actually, I think it might be on my Reaver page, which will help tremendously. I know I should have been better prepared, but I was just thinking of it and kind of popped in my head. Let me see if it's in this file. Yes. Let me save it. Now, the only way you're actually going to see it, and I apologize to my listeners, is if you go to my live stream, then you'll be able to see the picture. But I'll try to explain it to you the best that I can. No. Put that there. Let me see. Bands. Oh, it's always fun. Trying to. No, I've done this before. Oh, shnikes. Shnikes. Nope. Well, there we go. I think it's this one. There we go. Now what I've done is, in the corner of the video, you're going to see two pictures of a similar thing. It's a hill, you got a nice green grass, and then you got this coal plant in the middle. And it talks about being hang on. Sorry about, it sits there, it says the old energy, and it's got a power plant right next to water. Now, in the new energy, it has windmills all through the hills, and it says, oh, wait a minute, let's go back to old energy. It says, the power station and birds flying in the air. The new energy, you got all these windmills, and it's labeled bird choppers. And then the old energy, the coal plant, is still there, and it says backup power station. Within doing all this, you're still relying on nuclear, you're still relying on coal energy. But the problem is that pretty much all the coal factories are almost shut down because of the EPA standards. Mining for coal EPA standards are ridiculous. So much so that even the Supreme Court has shot down Obama's efforts because you just can't go around making laws that cause such a financial problem with the people. Our energy costs have skyrocketed. How you doing, Cal? Glad you could make it. The energy costs have skyrocketed. And then they wonder why these businesses are running out of the United States. Because it costs too much simply for electricity. So they run to other countries where they don't worry at all about polluting. They don't give a rat's you know what. So energy is cheap. It's easier to make the products. Now, I want all these companies to come back to the United States, but we have to make it feasible. I'm not saying we lift all EPA regulations, but we need to go over them and take a look. Because I know most of these plants, they're putting out low levels of pollution or anything into the air. They have so many scrubbers and all that going on, there's hardly any pollution going on. How do I know? Because my dad was a millwright, and he worked on a lot of those plants in the 70s and 80s, and already the scrubbers that were put in and all the other devices were not where we were a couple years ago. We don't have to worry about all that. Still can be careful, but does not mean we run around and do whatever we want. Let me see something. That's the whole thing. Everybody automatically. Oops. I know not to do that again. They think automatically we don't want any regulations. We want to pollute and do whatever we want. But what these deniers, what these alarmists, these cultists are doing, they are putting such strenuous regulations that it's next to impossible to create energy for anybody. It's getting ridiculous because you also have these people that are the alarmists, and they're talking about the corporate greed, they're talking about the energy and the pollution and all that as they're on their iPhones, tablets, and all these other electronic devices that have a carbon footprint. But it works off a battery, and you have to charge that battery. The energy to create the internet, to run the servers. It goes on and on and on. They want to a cause so that it makes them feel better. And they don't care who or how it affects anybody as long as it doesn't affect them. Because these people are hypocrites. Because if you honestly believed in the cause, you wouldn't be living in a house in the suburbs with 3-4 televisions in your house, with all the electricity and gadgets that go along with modern day. And then sit there and scream about the electricity bill. And then fly off to the next protest. You're being a hypocrite, plain and simple. These people, the alarmists, they want to be a part of something. They want to feel warm and fuzzy inside. So they jump on these causes. These causes, they mean well. Too many times in my career as an EMT, I saw people who meant well. And it doesn't end up good. We need sensible regulation, not panic regulations. And what Obama is putting through on the United States are panic regulations that do nothing except raise our bills. There is no global warming. They're trying to... There's one theory, and it's kind of, I believe in it, and I think it's kind of right. All this money that we pump into global warming starts to go to third-rate countries to help them build themselves up so they have better accommodations. And as their accommodations get better, means more carbon footprint. This is just another way to redistribute our money. There is no global warming. We have Mother Nature. Weather is ever changing. It is not the same temperature day to day to day. It is not sunny day to day to day. We have storms. We've always had these storms where they've been worse and then they lessen throughout history. We have scientists that are able to tell us that we've gone into warm phases and cold phases before the invention of humans. I know, invention of humans is a little ridiculous, but before humans stepped foot We've gone through warm phases. We've gone through cold phases. My grandfather told me the best. Every 20 years, our weather changes, where we'll have a lot of snow. Then we'll go into some warm weather. And the warm weather that we had that they thought was global warming coincided with high amount of solar flares. Surprise. What isn't a surprise is you're listening to the Reaver of Common Sense right here on HPPundit.com, RebootingLiberty.com, and SHRmedia.com. We'll be right back after this message.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
You have been listening to Reaver of Common Sense, hosted by my dad, Jersey Joe. Beware, the Jersey Takeover is here. Every Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can catch the Reaver of Common Sense show, hosted by Jersey Joe, right here on SHRmedia.com and HighPlainsDailyNews.com. Only Jersey can deliver hell like no one else, so consider this your fair warning.
In a world controlled by corrupt politicians,
You got a business. That you didn't build that.
a team of ordinary men emerge from the ashes to give voice to the voiceless and hope to the hopeless. Sackhead Sean,
Dude, I'm not saying cough for the stupid promo.
Sackhead Clint,
All good friends of ours usually show up drunk.
also starring Sacco as the producer.
I'm a little bit drunk, I'm a little bit drunk, 'cause I'm drinking, drinking, drinking.
They are the Sackheads Radio Show. Every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Pacific on SHRmedia.com.
Every Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, it is the Reaver After Dark, hosted by Jersey Boys, Jersey Joe, and Jersey Crash, right here on SHRmedia.com and HighPlainsDailyNews.com.
Times are dark. The people misled by corrupt politicians, lied to by establishment media, and deceived by the false messages of Islam. A nation in confusion needs a guide. It needs a man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me on Spreaker, SHR Media, High Plains Talk Radio, Live Rebooting Liberty, and YouTube for a unique brand of commentary on the unpleasant blind guide. Because truth is not always pleasant.
If you missed any of the Reaver of Common Sense or Reaver After Dark show,
I don't want to be me. I don't want to be me anymore.
just go to Reaver.one. While you're there, click the like button so you can keep up with everything Reaver. Now, back to the show.
You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
This show contains language that some viewers may find offensive. Listener discretion is advised. And now on to the show.
And welcome back to the Reaver of Common Sense. I am your host, Jersey Joe. Trying to make sense out of the senseless. It's not an easy task. Yeah, I don't know. I've been talking to Kel in the chat room about... I wasn't on Friday because Thursday night, as I discussed at the beginning of the show a little bit, I was in the middle of redoing my two of the computers. And what I mean redo is I wipe the hard drives, reinstall Windows, so it's more fresh, less crap in the background running. Well, I was like halfway through it, and I needed internet, and then all of a sudden, the internet went out. Now, I put the maps up, and Comcast, Verizon, and Bright House, they're two of the bigger that I know in Florida, internet and television. And it was just, wow, holy. The outages up in the northeastern corridor, almost all Florida, out west, Midwest, they were just out all over the place. And, yeah, basically like a factory reboot. So I had two computers. I couldn't even get on the internet. And I knew I'd be rushing Friday, trying to finish everything up and trying to get the show back up and running. It would run into each other. I had more than enough time to finish it Thursday night, but when the internet goes out, there's nothing I can do. Now, I'm going to add this to tomorrow's show, but this goes to the global warming and how fanatical the Democrats are about it. So Hillary Clinton made a statement, we're going to put a lot of coal miners and coal companies out of business. That is how rabid the Democrats are about this farce. And that's what it is. It's nothing but a big farce. Now, we got to talk about the fabrication that NASA and NOAA have done. And I found it was an older article. It's been a little bit. It talks to scientists at two of the world's leading climate centers, NASA and NOAA, have been caught manipulating temperature data to overstate the extent of the 20th century global warming. The evidence of their tinkering can clearly be seen at Real Science, where boggler Steve Gader has posted a series of graphs which show climate change before and after the adjustments. When the raw data is used, there is little, if any, evidence of global warming and some evidence of global cooling. However, once the data has been adjusted, i.e. fabricated by computer models, 20th century global warming suddenly looks much more dramatic. This is essentially notable on the U.S. temperature records. Before 2000, it was generally accepted, even by climate activists like NASA's James Hansen, that the hottest date in the U.S. was the 1930s. As Hansen himself said in a 1989 report, in the U.S., there has been little temperature change in the past 50 years. The time of rapidly increasing greenhouse gases, in effect, there was a slight cooling throughout most of the country. Now, also, I want to bring up, because one thing that any of these people fail to bring up, we have right now, how should I put it? A little a growth explosion of plants. Because what do plants feed off of? Carbon dioxide. They give off oxygen. We had a little bit higher amount of carbon dioxide. So now we have forests that have grown at a faster rate than normal. We have these large areas that were void of plant life that now have a heavy amount of plant life in it. Mother Earth is an evolution within itself, and it can control itself. And one of the nice things is when you get those high carbon dioxide, then the plants can take over and really push the carbon dioxide levels down. Now, when we get too much oxygen in the air, the reverse happens. Plant life starts to die off. And we start to build up on carbon dioxide. It's a balancing act that goes back and forth, and has been going back and forth for years. And scientists have proven that through fossils and through geology. I think it's geology study of rock and all that. And it shows the different layers. They can show where we've gone through this before. And it's not human involvement. The only human involvement with it is the transfer of monies because someone is lying about the cause and people are gullible enough to fall for it. And going back to the article, he had talked about, Hansen himself had talked about the past 50 years, the time of rapidly increasing greenhouse effect. In fact, there was a slight cooling throughout much of the country. However, Hansen changed his tune when sometime after 2000, the temperatures were adjusted to accord with the climate alarmist fashionable global warming narrative by cooling the record-breaking year of 1934 and promoting 1998 as the hottest year in U.S. history. The scientists who made the adjustments were able to suddenly to show 20th century temperatures shooting up, where before they looked either flat or declining. But as Goddard notes, the Environmental Protection Agency heat wave record makes a mockery of these adjustments. It clearly shows that the U.S. heat wave of the 1930s were of an order of magnitude greater than anything experienced at any other time during the century. Far more severe than most in the 1980s and 1990s, which were worse than those in the 1950s. These adjustments, however, are not limited to the U.S. temperature data sets. Similar fabrication have taken place elsewhere from Iceland to Australia. The fact that supposedly reputable scientists can make these dishonest adjustments and get away with it, notes longtime skeptic Christopher Booker, one of the most remarkable anomalies of the great climate change scam. When he had first began examining the global warming scare, I found nothing more puzzling than the way officially approved scientists kept on being shown to their finagle data, as in that ludicrous hockey stick graph, pretending to prove that the world had suddenly become much hotter than at any other time in 1,000 years. Any theory needing to rely so consistently on fudging the evidence, I conclude, must be looked at not as science at all, but simply a rather alarming case studied in the aberration of group psychology. It's absolutely mind-boggling. Hey, how you doing, Dave? It's mind-boggling. And the computer models have failed time and 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 time again. Not a single of their models have come true. It seems it'd be as if I did, I don't even know how to compare this. It's you make these models that fail. Nothing comes about, but you still say the results are going to happen. Climate change is because of global warming. And the models, the best way to put it is if A happens and B happens, then C will happen. Now, A has never happened. Never has. B has never happened. But they still say C is going to happen. All the data shows that they are wrong in their theories. The only thing that is positive in the theories is they are making money. No, I don't know what you talk about, Dave. I've never seen that. I'll have to take a look for it. David was saying in the chat room, there's In Search of the Coming Ice Age episode on YouTube. I'll have to check it out. From 1979, complete with Leonard Nimoy voiceover. Yeah, I remember those In Search of. I enjoyed watching them as a kid. There is no facts, no data, no rise, no lowering of the oceans. In fact, no, now they're saying there's no rise in the water because the sediment below is absorbing the extra water. Which that theory within itself doesn't even make sense. So, there's the sediment underneath the ocean. And it hasn't pulled up an ounce of the water. But now that there's more water added, it's drinking it up like a desert. That doesn't make sense. That's why there's an ocean on top of the sediment. Because it can't absorb any more water. I don't know. All right. I'll save this. Oop. I'll save that for later. And I do remember back then, it was, let's see, California, they predicted by the 80s there was going to be a great earthquake that they could predict exactly when it was going to happen. And it was going to snap California off from the United States. It was going to float off into the Pacific and sink. Florida was just going to sink into the ocean and the Gulf. Manhattan was built on a garbage heap that's supposed to be on fire and was supposed to collapse the city on top of itself. And the Ice Age. And I did discuss that earlier. In the 70s, it was the coming Ice Age. I'll tell you what. I've been down here in Florida 7, 8 years now. And before I left New Jersey, we had some snow here and there. We had some big snow right before I left. But nothing compared to the snowstorms they have gotten since I've left. But of course, global warming. I have not seen any bad storms, knock on wood, about, since I moved down to Florida, I have not seen any serious storms. The closest was a tropical storm that hit like 2 counties north of where I was staying at. It was kind of cool watching the green lightning. The whole sky would turn green at night. That was beautiful. I'm sorry to say, it was beautiful sitting in the hot tub, watching the storm 2 counties away, and just the green lightning. But, of course, they say that's global warming. When nothing happens, it's global warming. And when we get extreme weather, it's global warming. I just stubbed my toe, it's global warming. My drill stopped working, global warming. I mean, seriously, that's how ridiculous they sound. Every time something happens, it's global warming. I've heard of that, and I've never seen... Actually, no, I think I heard it once. There was a snowstorm that went through, and I remember hearing thunder. With them trying to now force, in the United States, Loretta Lynch to charge organizations or people that deny climate change, it seems like the last gasping straw of a dying theory. They can't prove it with the science, so they're going to try to prove it through force. and it's still, the people are not backing down from it. Wish I could back down from these, but you're listening to the Reaver Common Sense, making sense out of the senseless, right here on hbpundit.com, rebootingliberty.com, and shrmedia.com. We'll be right back.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
You have been listening to Reaver Common Sense, hosted by my dad, Jersey Joe. Beware, the Jersey Takeover is here. Every Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can catch the Reaver Common Sense Show, hosted by Jersey Joe, right here on shrmedia.com and highplainsdailynews.com. Only Jersey can deliver hell like no one else, so consider this your fair warning.
In a world controlled by corrupt politicians,
You got a business. That you didn't build that.
a team of ordinary men emerge from the ashes to give voice to the voiceless and hope to the hopeless. Sackhead Sean,
Dude, I'm not saying Kafka, stupid pro.
Sackhead Clint,
All good friends of ours usually show up drunk.
also starring Sacco as the producer.
I'm a little bit drunk, I'm a little bit drunk, 'cause I'm drinking, drinking, drinking.
They are the Sackheads Radio Show. Every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Pacific on shrmedia.com.
Every Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, it is the Reaver After Dark, hosted by Jersey Boys, Jersey Joe, and Jersey Crash, right here on shrmedia.com and highplainsdailynews.com.
Times are dark. The people misled by corrupt politicians, lied to by establishment media, and deceived by the false messages of Islam. A nation in confusion needs a guide. It needs a man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me on Spreaker, SHR Media, High Plains Talk Radio, Live Rebooting Liberty, and YouTube for a unique brand of commentary on the unpleasant blind guide. Because truth is not always pleasant.
If you missed any of the Reaver Common Sense or Reaver After Dark show,
I don't want to be me. I don't want to be anymore.
just go to Reaver.one. While you're there, click the like button so you can keep up with everything Reaver. Now, back to the show.
You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
This show contains language that some viewers may find offensive. Listener discretion is advised. And now on to the show.
And welcome back to the Reaver Common Sense Show. I am your host, Jersey Joe, making sense out of the senseless. The Jersey Takeover is here. We have expanded to 2 hours every Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Remember to join a live chat. Go to shrmedia.com. Just click on the chat room. Join the conversation. If you want to watch the broadcast, go to Reaver.one. That is Reaver.one. Click on the live stream. I'm going over a two-part series on the global warming farce. And what really brought it on was now that Loretta Lynch is now trying to charge corporations, individuals, anybody and everybody that has not bought into the farce known as the global warming cult, as I like to call them. And to me, it is the last-ditch effort of a dying theory when you have to try to make it... You have to bully the theory onto people for fear of prosecution, which I don't think any of it would happen. Especially against individuals, I don't see how it could happen. Because... well, freedom of speech. I have the right to say this if I want. The data is also backing up. Because there is no data proving that there's global warming. All the data has failed. All the computer models. And no, Greenies, Exxon did not hide the truth about global warming. This column that I'm going to go over is sponsored by my kind friends at ExxonMobil. And no, of course, it isn't really. And that was the serious beef with ExxonMobil. It ought to support its media defenders, but it doesn't. It is absolutely ridiculous to go after a company because at first they thought maybe it was true. And once more, when more facts came out, they changed their theory around. They realized it wasn't true. That this phenomena was not happening. It's... I'm sorry, it's just... It boggles my mind on how people can be so gullible to fall in, and it comes down to just wanting to feel warm and fuzzy inside. Now, I found an old article from Forbes, The Alarming Cost of Climate Change Hysteria. The U.S. Government Accounting Office, the GAO, can't figure out what benefits taxpayers are getting from the many billions of dollars spent each year on policies that are aimed at addressing climate change. The report noted that while annual federal funding for such activities has been increasingly substantially, there is a lack of shared understanding of strategic priorities among the various responsibility agents officials. This assessment agrees with the conclusion of a 2008 Congressional Research Service analyst, which found no overarching policy goal for the climate change that guides the programs funded or the priority among the programs. And Dave, the unpleasant blind guy, just put in the chat room, comes down to, in his opinion, just wanting to shovel more money in academia. Well, Dave, it's not far from that. I think it's more of a redistribution of wealth from those that have it to countries that don't have it. It's an excuse to build them up and give them money. Besides the fact that the billions of dollars that these corporations that are making off of this with no benefit to the people. The U.S. spends $22.2 billion a year. $22.2 billion a year the U.S. alone spends. And worldwide, it's $359 billion that's dumped into this farce. And according to the GOA, annual federal climate spending has increased from $4.6 billion in 2003 to $8.8 billion in 2010. amounting to $106.7 billion over that period from 2003 to 2010. 7-year period, we spent $106.7 billion. And now we're up to $22.2 billion. The money was spent in 4 general categories: technology to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, science to understand climate change, international assistance for developing countries, and wildlife adaptation to respond to actual or expected changes. Technology spending, the largest category, grew from $2.56 billion to $5.5 billion over this period, increasingly advancing over others in total share. Data compiled that the U.S. government spent more than $32.5 billion on climate studies just for the studies between 1989 to 2009, a 20-year period. We spent $32.5 billion. That doesn't count about $79 billion more spent for climate change technology research, foreign aid, and tax break for green energy. ONB pointed out that these previous noted agencies' budgets compilation didn't include revenues lost for the special deduction and tax credit intended to encounter greenhouse gas emission reductions. They attributed to those subsidies a cost of $7.2 billion in federal revenue losses during 2010 alone. $16.1 billion since 1993. Bringing the total since 2003 to $122.8 billion. And then there's still another $26.1 billion earmarked for climate change programs and related activities within the 2009 American Recovery and Reinvestment Act, or stimulus bill. Money is going all over the place. And that last stimulus bill from Obama, and I'm not knocking him for doing one. Other presidents have tried to do it to help stimulate spending. The size of that bill and the amount of money that was set aside for a stimulus program. And I think individuals got $259 and couples got like $400. I forget the exact amounts. It wasn't anything that, it might pay my electric bill. But the amount that was set aside for the stimulus bill, they literally could have given every American $1 million, said, here, pay off your bills. Pay off your debt, buy a house, but if you go in debt, we're not helping you at all. I'm not saying I agree, they never work, but I'm not going to go after Obama when other presidents have done the same. I do not agree with the stimulus bills, but I'm not going to attack Obama on it because, I'm going to attack all of them. They never work. They're slush funds for friends. The size of that last one could have been $1 million to every tax-paying American, and that would have solved everybody's problems. That's to show that they're not serious about actually helping people. It was out to help corporations, their buddies. Several of these green companies that donated and helped Obama get elected. And that's fine. I may have put it out wrong, but I'm not going to attack Obama on it when there's so many other presidents that have done it. They're all wrong for doing it, especially when you see the size of these packages. It's just ridiculous. If you're going to do it for the people. And it probably would have created... It wouldn't have solved everybody's problem, but it would have created a better growth than $259. I'm just going by what they did and how they could have done it better. That's all. It's all these green companies, they donate and help they help Obama get elected. And they pumped millions and millions of dollars. So he has now pumped federal grants into these green companies. And there's been several of these solar panel companies that we've been dumping money after money after money after money into, and they go belly up. And these presidents and CEOs have walked away with billions of dollars, more than they put into his campaign. And these green companies walked away with all the money. They got repaid with federal grants. It's global warming, alarmists, and all that. It's not about the actual climate. It's about the money. It's about redistribution of money. It's about control of the people. It has nothing to do with the climate. And people buy into it day in and day out. I have just scratched the surface. Just scratched the surface of the show. I still have part 2 coming tomorrow, where we will continue the discussion on this cult. Well, that's unless Loretta Lynch comes knocking on my door. And if anybody actually thinks that's going to happen, I'm being sarcastic, and even my advertisements, I'm being facetious about the statements and showing the ridiculousness of her statements. But with that, I will talk to everybody tomorrow, and we will continue this little trip. Until then, see you tomorrow. You're listening to the Reaver of Common Sense show right here on hbpundit.com, rebootingliberty.com, and shrmedia.com. Talk to you tomorrow.
I've been around this world, yet I see no end. All shall fade to black again and again. This storm that's broken me